Hey guys, Loman02. You'll notice my layout is a bit different this evening. It's not something I'm going to stay with. However, on condition of anonymity, my opponent in this Oldschool 93-94 game requested that I keep their identity hidden, which is perfectly fine with me. So the preview panel is going to be up. I think you should have a panel over their name bar up there. And you'll also have my lovely face, here in my home, covering the bottom area, because unfortunately MTGO does not know when to stop sending messages, so I needed something else to put down there. Anyways, in my hastily devised overlay that you have in this recorded video, let's get to the game. So I am playing TwiddleVault. I don't know what my opponent's going to be playing in this first matchup. He has a variety of decks, but he tends to play more controlling builds and less aggressive builds. So looking at this hand as we start, this hand is great. It's got a Library of Alexandria, which is probably the best card in 93-94. And we're just going to sit here and grind card advantage. Otherwise, the hand is nothing exceptional. I mean, it's got Soul Ring for some fast mana to kind of set up a balance. It's got 2 Sylvan Libraries, which are horrible in multiples, but because you don't have Brainstorms and, fetch lands and great ways to find Sylvan Library, I think you have to generally play 2 in the deck if you want to have ideal presentation of seeing one of them. So I guess all that said, I would rather play 1, but I have to play 2 just to ensure that I can see the card in a normal game. But that said, it's also not horrible to have 2 Sylvan Libraries. Well, neither of them does more than the first one does. It also plays well with balance. It's a card I can cast outside of being a land drop, because land drops are just going to take more time. So the hand's fine. I mean, really, it comes down to Library of Alexandria. And if this is your first time watching and you haven't seen 93-94 videos, I guess the preview panel is kind of a boon. The reason it is there is because MTGO, and you'll never notice this until you go to record and try to keep someone's name off of the screen, it can put names in a lot of places, to include the actual action bar or the turn bar, as well as the center area just above where my typical avatar would be. So Library of Alexandria, if you have 7 cards, tap it, draw a card. Exactly 7 cards, draw a card if you tap it. And it can add 1 colorless mana, which is pretty cool to boot. Trap Island, Soul Ring, Sylvan Library, if you're not familiar with this one, basically draw 2 at the addition or at the beginning of your draw step, put 2 back or take 4 life to keep any card over the first one that you have during your draw step. Balance, wreck everything if you're ahead in artifact mana on the board. And I'm not going to read all of these off, but then mana drain. So pretty easy keeper, I think. Mostly just based off Library. Opponent plays turn 1 Plateau. Unsurprisingly lead off on Library of Alexandria and just plan on getting at 10 cards. I draw Ancestral Recall, which, is obviously a pretty good card. Play out the drop here. I go ahead and just play the Soul Ring. I don't plan on popping the Ancestral yet. I don't even plan on doing it on their turn. I'm going to have a glut of cards, and at some point I expect I'm probably going to be discarding, so I don't want to go too haywire with just putting cards in my hand. I do have a lot of fast mana in this deck because it is a TwiddleVault deck, but I don't really have it now, and I don't have a fast win in hand. I'm kind of hoping just to sculpt my hand with Library of Alexandria, get so far ahead of them on cards that when they finally tap out for something, I just get a pretty easy win. Is kind of what I'm expecting here. All right, I believe at this point my opponent just concedes this game, and this wasn't really the game I wanted to show you in this match. This is just the first game and kind of how it ended. I believe they go ahead and pack it in here, and we go to the next game. I think they just can't really compete with the Library of Alexandria. So anyways, I'm going to go on a quick pause, guys. I'm going to reset this up for game 2, and then that's actually a hell of a game I think you'll really enjoy. So quick break, be right back. Alright folks, back, and this is game 2. So we don't have Library this time, but our hand is actually, for this combo deck, a lot better. I wouldn't say it's per se better than just having a Library on turn 1, but having 2 Howling Mines and the ability to cast 1 on turn 1 is very powerful. And the cool thing about this hand is it has the Time Vault, and it has 2 Howling Mines, which means that any disenchants my opponent has are likely to get expent on the Howling Mine, so I'm pretty happy with this. If you're not familiar with how TwiddleVault works, the idea is that you get a bunch of Howling Mines in play, eventually utilize Transmute Artifact, Demonic Tutor, or just draw the Time Vault, and then use a card Twiddle, which says tap or untap target permanent, to take extra turns. Now, when you have Howling Mines in play, that means, if you get to Twiddle once or twice, and obviously the more Howling Mines, the more Twiddles you can draw into, you're just drawing more and more cards. So it's kind of like a snowball or avalanche effect that you can get off of Howling Mines with the TwiddleVault combo. There is the card Twiddle. Unfortunately, I don't have altered art right now, so you have the 7th edition art, which is still actually pretty. It's actually very pretty. It's Rebecca Guay art, who I think is a great artist. But what I'm doing here is kind of what I described. I'm just playing out these Howling Mines and trying to get my opponent. I drew another one, Howling Mine is just the engine of the deck. Howling Mine is the engine of a lot of decks. So here is kind of a critical turn where I figure I can go off. My opponent goes for a Disenchant and Divine Offering on their main. I think what they wanted to probably do is do this on my upkeep or next end step. It's close because, I am also... So, actually, no, they wanted to do that, because if I do get the vault down, I just probably win. I don't win, just win because I have only one Howling Mine now. But I'm going to get some turns, and you'll kind of see the deck gets to kind of do its thing here, although eventually we do fizzle out. So we go ahead and untap the Time Vault, take the extra turn, draw 2 cards because of Howling Mine, find another Twiddle and some lands, and this is still great value. Like, I'm not saying, I don't really, when I'm playing this game, I don't really have the inkling that I'm likely to win off this sequence. But I do know I'm going to get ahead like 4 or 5 land drops, and I'm probably going to get up about 6 cards, which is still great. So I do go ahead and transmute Artifact. I just find another Howling Mine here because I just want to draw more cards, which I think makes very good sense. I don't miss here. I get another Twiddle, which is amazing. I just go ahead and resolve the Mirror Universe now. I'm not going to move that icon. My life total is not really relevant right now. I think it's still at 20 at this point. I do go down to 19 here, draw my additional cards, finally miss off of the Howling Mines, but I have hit, I believe, 3 Twiddles at this point, which is a pretty large volume of them. I play out the Mana Vault. My opponent gets to draw here. They, I believe, have an answer. No, they have Cop Red. Cop Red plus Circle of Protection Red. I just dumped my hand because I kind of wanted to play around Mind Twist, and if my opponent, for some reason, casts a draw 7, like, I don't want to have any cards in my hand. I just want to get him out because I am the combo deck here. Now I'm kind of looking at balance. I'm really liking balance. My opponent has 1 counterspell displayed. I've drawn into a counterspell. I go ahead and limit them to 1 blue mana. I don't really mind getting rid of some of my lands here. I think overall my deck's just going to run a ton more mana than theirs is. This deck has over 30 mana sources in it. It's basically mana, card draw, and like a few combo pieces is really kind of how the deck works. And like a very select few pieces of interaction. Like Power Sync's great in this deck because you just make so much mana that being able to sync them on their end step. And here we go. So opponent does go for the Time Twister, which is good by me because I just want to get into cards. They Demonic Tutor, so my assumption is they have, they probably got Time Walk so they can untap. I have the counter spell here, so I do have a few interactive pieces. Because this is a game 2, I have sideboarded into more Red Elemental Blast, but this deck actually, I believe, runs 1 or 2, I believe, Red Elemental Blast main deck, because the deck is just, it's kind of a glass cannon, right? Like, I'm playing a glass cannon style deck. So it does want to have some resilience measures in it. Here we go ahead and cast Mind Twist, just demolishing our opponent's hand, which is kind of, what we're hoping to set up there when we ended up countering their Time Walk. Now the opponent is down to, very few cards. I do go ahead and get this because I really don't want them to turn off my card draw on Howling Mine. They go ahead and attempt to counter it. I go ahead and Red Elemental Blast it. I just don't want them to turn off Howling Mine. I want to be drawing cards if they're drawing cards. And at the end of the day, Icy Manipulator is going to slow me down. So, my opponent's tapped out. I've drawn decently well here. Not decently well. I've drawn very well. I probably should be taking more damage off of the Sylvan Library here because I do have I have a Mirror Universe in play, so on upkeep I can utilize that. And Mirror Universe is another pretty cool card if you're not familiar with the format. Basically, sacrifice Mirror Universe, exchange life totals with your opponent. You can only do it during your upkeep because it's a weird old card, so you can't just do it instantly. I do utilize the Hercule's Recall here. The reason I do this is because I just want to make a boatload of mana, but still leave mana up for interaction or follow-on actions, because I'm planning on getting a bunch of cards off of Ancestral here. Unfortunately, the card I was looking for, which in this case was Fireball, I did not find. So that was a tap-out turn by my opponent because of their Time Walk. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to exploit it and find the Fireball, which would have allowed me to use Channel to win there with my excess mana that I had available. So tried going for it, didn't hit, unfortunately. So find the Demonic Tutor, which, obviously last turn that would have been great because it would have meant I won the game on that turn. I would have just found the Fireball and, blown my opponent up. Now I'm kind of thinking in my mind, like, hey, I'm probably going to have to, as opposed to fireballing them, try to Brain Geyser them out. So what I do here is I go for a Brain Geyser on myself. I know that I still have Time Twister available in my deck, and one of the things kind of jumping back that I didn't specify is we have had some cards exiled with Tormod's Crypt. None of them, one of them is very operative, and that's the Time TwiddleVault. TwiddleVault just allows you to kind of assemble the combo of this deck, but the combo of the deck that actually allows it to win is just Fireball, Channel, or Channel, and in this case, because they have Circle Protection Red in play, which means that my Fireball cannot kill them if they leave any mana up, I'm going to have to mill them by casting a massive Brain Geyser. So at some point, I am going to need to use the Mirror Universe because I'm at about 15 life at this point, and I'm going to want to trade life totals because life total at this point actually equates to mana. So that's why it's relevant to actually trade life totals with them and get an extremely high life total, because each piece of life is going to be mana to me. So I still feel like I have pretty good control of this game. Fireball, obviously, again, would have been welcome a couple of turns ago when we had them tapped out, but we didn't get there. We didn't find it. And now it's pretty much worthless. If Recall was still in the deck, which it is not, it'd be a good card to pitch to Recall, because we're never going to beat that Circle Protection Red with just Fireball. Let's keep on passing it. The Twiddle is the only Twiddle that's not exiled in my deck. I'm not really sure what I'm going to use it for, but in retrospect, I think the strongest use of it now, because I still do have 2 Howling Mines left, is to probably just tap a Howling Mine when I have one in play, so that I can keep my opponent from drawing a card off of it and then draw off it on my turn. Because Twiddle is just kind of bad on its own. It doesn't really do anything. Alright, jayemdae Tome. I decided to fight over this because I figure if my opponent has counter magic, they'll probably fight me back. They don't. Plus, it's a pretty big mana swing in my direction. Draw to sink here. Find the Twister. The Twister is going to be necessary because my WinCon Brain Geyser is in the graveyard. So this turn's going to be a fighting turn. You can't see this because I have my preview card panel covering it up, but I'm down to about 9 cards in deck right now. That's why I'm not using the library there, because I pretty much just need one piece out of my deck, which is the Time Twister, to get other pieces from my graveyard back into my library so I can draw them again. And Regrowth was in there as well, so I was unable to get those pieces back outside of using Time Twister. So I find the Regrowth again, get the Time Twister back. I opt to twist this again because I've used up the hand. I'm not able to do that, which is fine. But actually, Time Walk's still fine because I get a full untap here. And you can't see it again, but I'm still very low on cards in deck. I'm below 20 at this point. I believe there's like 17 cards left in my deck at this point because I have 13 exiled and I have a boatload of permanents in play. And actually, it's kind of tough to see, but I believe I have. Sorry, I hope you didn't see his name. Anyways, I have 3 Tundras over there as well that I've gone off screen because the permanent count has gone up so high. So Library of Alexandria, cool. He's going to be drawing some cards here, but I have 3 counter spells in hand, and I feel like if I really need to get something through, I'm going to be able to get something through here. But I do start untapping my mana vaults. Alright, we find Channel, which is important because that's going to be one part to our combo. We have traded life totals at this point, and as you can see, uses of Cities of Brass and like the mana vaults just chipping away at me. It brought me down to 10 life. That's when I trade him life total. So I'm at 21 life right now. I believe I took 1 off of a mana vault at some point. Which is relevant because eventually I'm going to use Channel right there to turn, up to 20 of that into actual mana. I do draw into an Ancestral Recall. I figure I'm probably just going to do it on their turn. I don't think I have the cards I need to actually win this turn. But when they tap down for something, I actually opt to do it there because if I'm going to fight them, I want to fight them when they're at the lowest amount of their mana resources. Because they're close to beating. They're probably beating me on cards right now. Well, not really. I don't know. I feel like, because I have less cards that I don't need to win the way I plan on winning in my deck, I'm going to draw a little more live. I have less permanents probably left in my deck, so I have a pretty good assortment of spells left. And again, now you can kind of see the Tundras over there, all 3 of them. So we go ahead and go for a Mind Twist here. This is going to be a fight. We know it's going to be a fight. We have Mana Drain and 2 Red Elemental Blasts to protect it, but I think it is time to do it. And if all else fails, what I'll do when this gets countered and all my counter spells get countered is I'll cast Channel. After I've cast Channel, I'll utilize it to make all the colorless mana I need to cast Wheel of Fortune. I'll Wheel of Fortune and then try to get Brain Geyser and go to win that turn. I don't really want to do that, but because because the twist resolves, I just, opt to give them another draw step because I'm not really that worried. And I don't want to risk going for Wheel of Fortune if I don't have to, especially with them down at 1 card. So the highest upside play was getting them to Mind Twist there and then being able to just draw the game out. And we were able to do it because they just didn't have enough to beat our 3 counters. They had 1 counter. I do use the Twiddle, which is now pretty much worthless other than the use I just used it for, to tap my Howling Mine to keep them off of more cards. I'm very low on cards at this point. I believe I am at 7, and I'm going down to 4 next turn, and then 1 on the following turn. Tormod's Crypt is played, which is not exceedingly relevant because the operative parts of the combo are still available to me inside my deck. So if they go for a Tormod's Crypt on me, it's not going to impact me heavily. I just play that land out. Now, I'm down to 4 cards, so I have to go for it next turn. I have missed the Brain Geyser, so unless the Brain Geyser is the very last card in my deck, I'll be able to hit it. And if it is the last card in my deck, then what I'll have to do is bounce all of my artifacts to include the Howling Mine, so I only draw the last card and don't draw 2 over the last card and go down to -2 cards and kill myself. So Brain Geyser is not the last card in my deck, and off the top of my head, I don't know what the last card in my deck was. Alright, let me move this a little bit, guys. Alright, there. Alright, gotta make sure that's covered up. Sorry, this is really hard to do, guys. I'm trying to make sure this gentleman's name does not get exposed here. So it's my turn, and I'm doing stuff, so you should only see my name down there, but I don't know. I want to try to honor them as best as possible, but I did want to show this game because it's very sweet. So I do Hercule's Recall there. You'll see, one misplay on my part. I was kind of just playing sloppy because I figured I had it at that point because of what had resolved previously. I didn't tap the Fell War Stones for mana. I should have. But the reason I'm doing that is just to increase my mana count. Like my mana pool, I went to 4 life off of the channel, so I could not get single bolted out. Keep in mind that also turns off my Cities of Brass if I want to stay out of bolt range, so those are basically dead land cards. But I still do have a Mana Drain plus a Red Elemental Blast available to me for me to stop them. And I also have Power Sink, which is not really that relevant here outside of them not using a bolt on me. But I didn't want to be just dead cold to a bolt. So they do go ahead and I believe cast a size massive Power Sink, which actually would not kill me, but it would put me to 1 life because of the Cities of Brass. So I go ahead and I Mana Drain this, which I guess gives me a boatload of mana, and they're out of interaction. I think they were trying to rep that they still had a Red Elemental Blast, but even if they did have Red Elemental Blast, I have 2 by Power Sink, which is going to stop them. This is a Brain Geyser for 27 cards, which puts them 1 beyond 26, obviously milling them. So they basically would have drawn their whole deck, plus 1 card for lethal. So, very interesting game. Tormod's Crypt, not a common card. It's not a bad card for sideboards. It's not a common card you often see, though. But I think it actually, it made this game very interesting because I lost the operative part of my combination. And because of that, I wasn't able to just take infinite turns and just do the combo very easily. I had to play a very long game. And, because of Cop Red, I was unable to use the Fireball win count, which is a lot easier because, what you do is you just trade life totals with the Mirror Universe, and then you just Fireball them for 3 or 4. And it's very easy to do damage to yourself when you have Cities of Brass and Mana Vaults. You just, let them tick up, and eventually you're at a very low life total. Change it out, when it's at 4 or 5 or something like that. Generally beyond bolt range, so you don't want to just get bolted out by a Miser Bolt. And then just Fireball them for 5 or 6 mana. And that's typically how it wins. But this is kind of a cool alt win way. It's an alt way to win. Is just use the Brain Geyser to mill them out. And it legitimately isn't here as a win con because this is not the first time I've won with Brain Geyser in a big mana Time Vault deck like this. But it's the first time I've captured it. And it's very rare. It's generally a rare way to win. You don't commonly see it. So I thought the game was pretty sweet. I'm sorry for the additional overlays that you have all around here, but like I said, my opponent said it was cool for me to post this video of this kind of interesting game with Time Vault versus, I would say, a variant of the deck. This appears to be a variant of the deck. It's a control deck, that's for sure. So I tried to honor that, and you get my ugly mug, and you get some weird Planeswalker overlays over his name, and then you get the preview card. So I guess at a minimum, the preview card is somewhat useful, because if you're not familiar, you can see some of the cards with, not the cool original art, but with some art. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this set of games. The first game, Library of Alexandria, rah-rah, it wins games of Old School. But this last game I do think was kind of interesting, pretty unique. So, we did, and you can't see it at this point. I don't want to move my preview card just in case my opponent's name's down there. I'm kind of leery to do it. All right, good. It's my name. I want to show you. I'm at 1 card in Library right there. So, I only have 1 card left. Like I said, I don't know what it is, but You know, it was not the Brain Geyser, which would have been Salt Town, because, you know, then I would have to use the Hercules Recall to make less mana, but get the Howling Mines out of play. Likely on their upkeep. I'd probably do it on their upkeep just to start the fight there. You know, and plus I don't want to give them the extra card. So yeah, it probably would have been they just drew one next turn if I had to go that route, if Brain Geyser was my literal last card. But if it was, we had a plan. So I think we could have still won it either way, but we would have obviously been giving them one more draw step to find something. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed it, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it there. This is 93-94 Old School. I am playing with Time Vault combo. TwiddleVault, I think, is the more common moniker. And I'm playing against a version of the deck, piloted by the Masked Hero. All right, guys, enjoy and take care now.